You're now listening to the Something Good Podcast Network. Please press any key to continue.
Alright everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of The Couch Potatoes. I'm Alex
Morrison.
And this week we're going to be diving in, of course, to our different sort of news topics, and we're going to have a main part of the episode in which we're going to be going into our top 5 best and top 5 worst, or bottom 5 worst, however you want to phrase that.
Shit we hate.
First party Nintendo games for any of the consoles, not handheld though. Because as soon as you were just like, because originally you were like, no, handheld too. I'm like, no, fuck. That's going to mess up my entire ranking
the Game
system. So no, we don't want to do that. But no, thank you guys for the warm reception last week. We can actually start reviewing these episodes faster ahead of time, at least during these middle parts. I mean, the beginning parts, the middle parts we can record anytime, but we'll still have a fresh intro every week to be able to talk to our folks. And if you want to get conversational with us, head on into our Discord. Link is in the episode description. A handful of people just recently joined in, so come have fun with us and
tell us your real names and where you're from.
I know, I have an auto message set up to be like, hey, introduce yourselves, and no one introduces themselves, but hey, whatever, it's cool. We're getting people in and they're having a good time with us. So yeah, share some different articles that you think we should cover. But yeah, as I mentioned earlier, like in last episode, let's go ahead and move on over to our news segment. I don't know if I'm using a new one this week. Last week's was okay, but it was like literally that was like 5 minutes in GarageBand playing with like different loops. So who knows? Maybe this is a different 5-second last minute GarageBand loop, or it's the same fucking one. But something we actually mentioned last week that we did not really discuss much. We kind of mentioned it in passing. There's going to be a new Evil Dead movie.
Fuck yes.
We watched the trailer for that last week, and something that you called out immediately is you said, thank God they are not in the middle of the woods.
Yeah. They do show in the trailer a cabin in the woods situation, which I think will be the preamble for the movie itself of how it made its way to the city. Right,
because you see, it's kind of like just a regular old city apartment flat, but the Necronomicon shows up in there.
Yeah, and we just happened to, it's going to be that same conversation. Hey, what's this? Yeah, fuck it, open it. Let's see what happens.
That's still the thing that gets me on. I still call it the new one, even though it came out over 10 years ago. But the most recent Evil Dead movie, it's like, motherfucker, it's like it's wrapped in a trash bag.
Barbed wire.
With barbed wire around the trash that.
And it's not just the basement, it's the sub-basement with dead cats hanging from the ceiling. And there's a shotgun, a tape recorder, an old 70s tape recorder, a broken down shotgun with 2 empty shells and a couple other whole shells. And hey, look what I found.
Yeah, and I'm going to use these bolt cutters to open up this book that clearly...
The snap of the fucking wire itself was just like, no. But like you know, he's got gloves on, he's prying it open, and this is what it seems like the kid is just wrapped in like some paper or some shit. But even then, it's just like if I found a book like that, I'm going to open it. But still, like,
and this is why these movies are like real.
But like you touch it, it's just like
I'd fucking do it.
What is it bound in? A flesh of something. We could joke human. We could joke. Well, it could be a pig. It could be a chicken. We don't know.
But it's flesh of something.
It's flesh of something. And that kind of guys a call back to that movie I saw on Netflix recently, The Pale Blue Eye, where he finds a book like that. I'm just like, why'd you pick it up? Why did you do that? Like, what a dumbass.
Don't read it. Don't read the thing. And it's like, especially like if you're, okay, fine, you've made it this far. You've snapped the barbed wire. You've opened up the trash bag. You've peeled back the fleshy paper. When you start reading it, and see,
it's in red ink.
Yeah, it's in red ink, and you see all these like burning witch diagrams and like all this Latin.
Well, my favorite. What did I say? It's all right. So we see the Latin written on the earmarks of every page. The book is written in some fucking Sumerian language, but deep into the pages, carved in blood, is "kill the bitch" in English. Like, it is in English. There's a whole page, and then the translation is one sentence: "Kill the bitch." Burn her, but bury them deep.
Yeah, so even if you don't know what the book is saying, you can at least read that bit and, like, okay, don't start reading the prayer chant.
Yeah,
out loud. Like, okay, fine. If you've got to get this far, don't read out loud.
Yeah,
read it in your head.
And that's what
don't whisper it. Why are you reading the words out loud?
And what I like about it looks like it's the original book from the newest one.
Yeah,
from 2010.
Yeah, it looks like it's a sequel to that movie, which I'm cool with because that was a fantastic movie.
But like, I do like, because they're not going to show everything that we want to see. Probably not until next trailer or so, because it's not due till April. And when you see the open book, when you see like the main character who is the mom becoming a deadite, so to speak, it does have that gory feel already that the movie had. Especially, the fucked up things the deadite says is kind of the crux of the Evil Dead series.
Oh, yeah.
Is this like the terrible things she says in that goddamn basement while she's cutting her tongue in half, bifurcating her tongue, and is just like, oh my God. And we only got one sentence, and it was, "Where's mommy?" "Mommy's with the maggots." And it's just like, yeah, that's pretty fucking metal. Yeah, we're going to be watching it. Luxie Turner. That's gonna be.
I hadn't discussed that on any podcast yet. I like that song.
It is.
It's good.
What's her name? Beth Roars from YouTube has finally reviewed it, which is the newest song she's ever reviewed.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So going from Alice in Chains' "Wood," which is a fucking great song, to that is kind of a push.
But yeah, we'll definitely be doing a review episode of that movie when it comes out. And moving on from other trailers, we've gotten a look at Guardians 3, and we've also gotten quite a few looks at Ant-Man 3.
Yes.
Quantumanium. And honestly, as much as Guardians looks really good, I'm excited for Ant-Man.
Yeah, Ant-Man will probably be the introduction of our villain.
Absolutely.
Other than the Loki series. And I've already found out this morning that the guy that plays Kang has decided to do another cameo in the new Loki season coming up. So we'll get another variant.
Okay.
For that. But like even the first trailer for the new Ant-Man movie was perfect. Goodbye Yellow Brick Road playing. It kind of gives you that Wizard of Oz feel kind of situation going into it. And I think we're going to see something probably terrible. I think we're going to see some characters die off.
In Ant-Man?
Yeah. I got a feeling we're going to see some mainstay characters that we saw in Endgame maybe. Or in Phase 3, just go ahead and die off.
Yeah, I mean, so have you seen the most recent trailer where they talk about a lot of the time dilation and stuff? So one of the main hooks is Kang is wanting to give Scott, Ant-Man, time again, because he starts showing him all the time he missed during the blip, during his time as a superhero, and just kind of Cassie growing up and him not being there. So Kang is really using "I will give you time if you help me." And through that, you also see in that trailer multiple Scotts.
Yeah.
So I wonder if it is going to be a scenario where the real Scott does die at some point in the film, if they're opening up the idea of like variants and doubles of the same actor.
I think a lot of it is going to be a family-esque kind of drama type situation, because we do see in the newest trailer that Cassie has been in trouble before, like has a criminal record because her dad disappeared. She lived through the blip. She lived without a dad, so she's going to be different. I think that'll be the whole point of why Scott wants to go back, to make sure she doesn't follow in the criminal footsteps that he did and stuff like that. It's probably going to be multi-layered, like it should be. Like every Marvel movie, we're going to get 3 perspectives, an A, B, and C plot. They're all going to come together at the end, fight the big bad. Whether or not they win or lose is probably up in the air right now.
Yeah.
And
we get MODOK.
Yeah. Yeah, so
we get MODOK in
we get
this
a version
too.
of MODOK.
Yes.
Yeah. Not our favorite version of
No,
MODOK, which
but
is
a
a
MODOK.
giant head.
That's essentially what it is.
Yeah, no, but like the one we really want to see is an anthropomorphic head just being pushed out of fucking a giant gauntlet mask with tiny arms and legs.
But
Raps him poetically like a fucking Shakespearean villain.
But I find interesting you were saying that with Ant-Man you feel like it's going to be a big time family film because I feel, or family centric film, because Guardians 3 is shaping up to be the exact same way because this is going to be heavy on the Rocket subplot or Rocket plot, and a lot of that's going to be, you know, how he was created,
With,
how he was.
I think they're going to introduce not only that, but like his origin with the grand what's his name? The guy that created Rocket.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But him, the Grand Evolutionary.
Yeah.
They're going to do also Adam Warlock finally, which the guy that's playing him looks okay.
Yeah.
I was expecting someone big, like someone who's going to be a little bit more imposing.
Right.
Yeah.
He's pretty young.
Yeah. So like, but like the Adam Warlock we get in the Guardians video game is fantastic. Like it's kind of scary looking, but
talk about a forgotten video game.
Yeah, right. They had Fing Fang Foom in it. Like, what the fuck? Why did you forget that game?
Like, no one talks about that game at all.
The Beastmasters, that was a newest villain created for the comics before the first movie came out, and they put her in the fucking game, and she's fantastic. And the story's good. That could have been the third movie, honestly. Honestly, that could have been the third goddamn movie.
Well, it's like everyone was saying that the PS4 Spider-Man was
like the best Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Period. It's the best goddamn thing ever made.
There you go.
Yeah. Even the Avengers movie, as much as the fucking pay-to-play part of it is, the story's pretty good when you're trying to introduce a young superhero with a fractured Avengers.
Yeah. Oh, I've heard nothing but garbage about
the story's fantastic.
Avengers game, rather.
Yeah, the story's fantastic. Yeah. Even the DLC with Maester and fucking MODOK, and they have a Sentry robot in it. A goddamn Sentinel shows up.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's badass. But you couldn't do it here because, 14 different people on this entire billionaire property. It's like having like roommates at an Airbnb. You're not really sure who owns what. And it's just like we all throw our credit cards in the hat. On what night we're playing, we're also essentially here.
But I can also tell that Guardians 3 is going to be a tearjerker.
Yeah,
because basically anytime you fuck with Rocket, it's going to hit the sympathy wires, and it's like, he's a Frankenstein, horribly messed with creature, and if they're going to go into that backstory, James Gunn's going to pull the fucking soundtrack. It's going
the soundtrack's going to be fantastic, always.
Everything's going to hit. It's going to be like those like fuck you Pixar moments, but in a Marvel movie. So I'm ready.
I think the biggest like tearjerker moment in all of Marvel for me was in Guardians 2, where it's the funeral basically
I was
of
just
Yondu,
about to say
and
that.
it's Cat Stevens' father and son playing, and I'm just like, get the fuck out of here. I went to the theater and saw that. I'm just like, I went to Logan. I went to Logan and cried like a bitch. But how dare you do that to me?
Dude,
making me feel shit.
That part honestly gets me every time because it's like you've got the fireworks.
Oh yeah,
because they built up the whole Yondu is exiled from any the Ravagers team and any other team because he failed to retrieve the child. He turned his back on the Kree or whatever or Creed. So it's like seeing everyone band together at the end to give him a proper salute. Yeah,
and even the other Ravagers, that's what I'm kind of hoping to see is the other Ravagers return, especially Sylvester Stallone and Ving Rhames and everybody return as their character.
Miley Cyrus,
yeah, she's a robot. She's a robot head. But yeah,
everyone forgets that too. Miley Cyrus is part of the MCU.
But you also see the other Sorcerer Supreme, which is like a alien version. So like I think everything will tie into itself. It is a grand tapestry of responsibility, of power.
Grand tapestry. I will say though, man, Marvel needs these two to hit. They need Ant-Man and Guardians 3 to hit bad.
Nope, you'd be just fine.
Well, I mean, at least with the audience, because remember, Phase 2 of the MCU really didn't do that well. That's where we had Iron Man 3, Thor 2, even Age of Ultron, which I know you liked, but you can agree that, you know, it wasn't very critically or fan loved, at least at the time. It took some time. It's kind of like the Star Wars prequels. Give it some time, everyone eventually comes around.
I think the unbelievable goal that they're trying to set, the goalpost they're trying to move all the time, is fucking stupid.
It is.
No one really wants to go to the movie theater anymore.
Well,
even when you make fantastic, let's say this is the year they decided to do in-game instead of back then. Honestly, you can't make me think I need to spend $13 on a goddamn matinee, or even let's say even more. It's out of the reach economically to go to the movies.
Well, see, even though I 100% agree with that, I would disagree that it wouldn't get people's butts in seats still. Look at No Way Home. The last Spider-Man movie. That did tremendously.
Yeah. And
that was a good handful of years disconnected from Infinity War and Endgame, too. So I would say that even post-pandemic, people will still put butts in seats for a major event movie. I feel like here's the problem. So as I was kind of mentioning, you know, Phase 2 wasn't that hot, but listen to the movies I listed off. The third Iron Man, the second Thor, you know, the second Avengers movie. They weren't trying to do anything huge at that moment. Everyone was having kind of their separate story, and then we all came together because of Ultron, and then we all separated again. Right now, where we're coming out of Phase 4 into now Phase 5, we had so much that they tried to make happen in 4. It was more of a slow burn before, moving up to the threat of Thanos. Right now, think of all the shit that we've had. They're just trying to throw so much at the wall to where they can wrap up with the next, you know, Infinity War Endgame style movie so much faster than they did before.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem. So far, they've introduced the idea of multiverse, time hopping, witchcraft, and everything else. Plus, introducing it, like side characters like Moon Knight, She-Hulk, you know, all these people that do have to eventually play small roles and everything else. The new Hawkeye, Kate Bishop. All of that has happened in this phase. I feel like they're trying to introduce way too much all at one time.
Oversaturation.
Well, not even over. It is oversaturation, but oversaturation on different plots. Before, everything was in the end game of an Infinity Stone, and then now all the stories about the different Infinity Stones have led to Thanos. How is witchcraft, time travel, and multi-dimensional travel and new characters all going to play in all at once?
And you know that's something to wait and see.
It is.
That's all we can do. The problem I have with it is you're trying to tell a story of a villain, their main villain, and that's the problem with Marvel. It's always a main villain. That's the big bad. DC, you know, DC's always, you know, one character, one villain. You know, protagonist, antagonist. At no point do a shit ton of villains come together really in the DC universe when it comes to the action movies and stuff like that. But I don't know, man. I could see them breaking, you know, maybe 900 million each at the box office. The reason I have a problem with the whole box office thing, numbers, is people are going to spend money no matter what to watch these movies.
Right.
And do we count, you know, when we do accumulation of how much a movie makes, Avatar, the first Avatar is always the good benchmark because it's a new product. It's literally a new technology. Let's get it out there. Second week, Avatar 2 comes out. It's made almost the same amount of money as Avatar 1, but gets beat by Megan, a horror comedy that's rated PG-13 in its second week. And I'm just like, yeah, drugs is fueling the fucking theater industry. Like drugs.
The horror fans are taking over.
Yeah. So take movie theaters. If you want people to go see your fucking movies, take down the no loitering signs out front.
Take down the no smoking signs.
No, leave those up. But like pro drug dealing fronts. You know what I'm saying? Like that one guy out there with the fucking trench coat and the Four Loko in a paper bag selling dope out front is the one that's going to make people love your fucking movies.
I'm going to go see Guardians 3 and Ant-Man. I think both of those look really good. But yeah, as you were kind of mentioning with the oversaturation, I've watched all the different Marvel things that have come out. And right now, looking at the outside, it feels like if people watched Infinity War and then they watched the new Hawkeye series, WandaVision, Loki, and the new Spider-Man, they would be caught up.
Yeah,
it feels like that's all they would really need to watch. Like, it feels like so much of the other stuff is just so inconsequential. The only reason you would really need to watch it is to explain a microsecond of a plot.
Yeah.
To be like, who is that person? Oh, that's so-and-so. They showed up in the
I think the
only
reason they're doing it is because if you remember when Infinity War came out, everybody's like, well, what the fuck's going to happen in Endgame? Well, let's go back and watch these movies and find out maybe they left little hints. I think of how nerdy and how toxic the fan base is when it comes to, well, this doesn't make sense and this doesn't make sense. It's just like, no, we're going to give you every goddamn clue as much as humanly possible, even that the second from the bottom of Kang's army has a plot, so you can shut the fuck up. Because because every person, like I said before in the first episode, you got people making money on the backs of these creators who don't shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
And some of these reviews, and we've talked about it, some of these reviews are lackluster. Like you're like, if I watch one review and it's trash and you're just saying, oh, it's the bottom worst fucking thing in the world. Okay, why? Tell me why.
Tell me why.
Well, it goes back to the South Park guy. He's not from America. What the fuck does he know about American culture enough to judge a show about America?
Yeah, but at least he had the forethought to say, but I'm not American. Yeah. There could be jokes here I just don't get. Yeah. For me personally, it ranks here.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the problem with these reviewers is they're not in the mindset of just going to a fucking movie.
No, we'll definitely do a Phase 4 wrap-up where we can kind of talk about the shows we watched actually and versus the reviewers we've seen and what they said and if we kind of agree with it.
That's kind of the only reason I like Mr. Sunday Movies is because they're just bullshitting.
Yeah.
They're not like here's what I think's going to happen. But like, hey man, did you remember what happened to that one movie though? Yeah. Yep. What the fuck was that? You know?
Exactly. And a perfect segue into that is something that if you just click YouTube right now, you will see anyone talking about this fucking show. And we watched the 2 episodes, the new Velma series on HBO Max.
Yeah, it doesn't. It's not the best thing. It's not a Scooby-Doo show for Scooby-Doo fans.
No. So everyone online is like saying that this is like the biggest piece of garbage in XYZ. And this is at least where I stand with it because I listened to a bunch of the reviews for the past few days and then this afternoon we watched the 2 episodes that are available. And I 100% agree and understand what everyone is complaining about. Mm-hmm. I feel like we could silence those complaints, though, if one of the questions I even have could be answered. Who is this show for? That's the part that I'm not understanding and that I have the biggest gripe with because the whole setup is that, Velma is... basically, you said it. Everyone is just a shithead on this show. Everyone's a horrible person on this show. Yeah. And it's basically... if it's a Family Guy cutaway turned into a show.
This is marketed to people who watch Harley Quinn.
Maybe
it's the exact same comedy. It's the exact same almost art style,
right?
A little bit.
Now, real quick, while you said that, huge props to the animation and art department.
Yeah.
that completely aside from any gripe we have about the show, you even said midway, you're like, the transitions are really cool. Yes, some of the crazy trippy artwork things they do in that, very creative, very well done on that. So A+ to the art department. Credit where credit's due. So that was the one thing that was actually kind of keeping me invested was Velma. Her character, you wind up figuring out that basically a combination between her annoyance and her mom's dysfunction kind of drove her away. She's always kind of burned herself, feeling like she's the reason her mom left.
She has a weird form of PTSD.
Yes, where she started to try to solve her mother's disappearance, and then she started getting ghostly, ghoulish, like PTSD vision symptoms.
Which looks fantastic.
And those scenes are awesome. So I really enjoyed that. My fault with it is I don't understand who the jokes are for, because the jokes that they're making aren't for the audience the show was intended for. So so for instance, you say, oh, there's going to be an adult Velma show. You're going to attract who? Scooby-Doo fans. You're going to attract people that are interested in that IP. When you get into the show, though, the jokes that are being served aren't for that fan base, and in fact, kind of skewer that fan base. Like, for instance,
it's a little too meta.
It's very self-aware, like too much.
So, and you can't be too self-aware. A lot of shows do this lately. But I think another part of it is, we've talked about this before, about who owns what. We needed a show. Mindy Kaling was a fan of Scooby-Doo growing up. She's made that very immediately clear. She wanted to do a show about Scooby-Doo from the back end. Hey, what happened before they were all adults in a van? They went to school together. We know this through the history of Scooby-Doo. There are some meta jokes in the live action movies that kind of get a little too real when you're an adult watching it. But when you're a kid, it's just like, oh, that's kind of funny, you know. Oh, Shaggy's a stoner. But in the movie, he's just like, he has stoner friends. Like, and this one is just like, I will never do drugs. And it's just like, oh, he's setting him up for failure. Fine, perfect. He's that. Fred is a perpetual fucking child.
and that's why I was saying it feels like a Family Guy cutaway turned into a series.
Yeah, but I think that's what it is. It's just a new comedy that's coming out.
And I don't know, but this kind of like reverts back to what I was saying though. So if you market this as an offbeat adult origin story set in the Scooby-Doo universe, you're going to attract the adult Scooby-Doo fans. And while you're watching it, you know, there's just so many times where it's like it's not playfully having fun in the universe. Some of it is mean-spirited. Some of it is just like very forced. And and again, the jokes that they're telling don't really fit the audience or the universe. Like it doesn't.
I will say the opener I thought was really good because it is talking about television, and how they hook you. Right. With the pilot, where they're just talking about gratuitous nudity, and they're doing it on HBO of all places, which HBO, they're
known for that.
That's their hook. So I liked that enough to let it play into, oh shit, there's a murder. Us growing up watching Scooby-Doo, no one got murdered. Yeah. Not a fucking one. It's always a rich guy who owns an amusement park. Or a bunch of houses.
And again, I'm cool with that. But even in like episode 1, I remember bringing up to you, I was like, who is this show made for? Because some of the dialogue and like situations felt very preteen young kid.
Well, like, I think that's what...
just do it because we're doing it here. But then all of a sudden they slap you with a dick joke. And I'm like,
So this is what I think happened. So instead of being... We've had this problem before with other series we've watched. Instead of being precision targets of males between 20 and 35, or couples adults between the ages of 35 and 45, or this and that, they are shotgunning as many target audiences as possible until they reach one. And then they'll write it that way. Yeah. I think that's what the approach is for the pilot, for the first 2 episodes. The same thing happened with... Venture Brothers, when it came out, no one really knew who the fucking audience was, right? Because you got Friends of Johnny Quest and shit like that, and it's just like, who is this for? Because you watch it, it's just like, I have to know a lot about a bunch of shit to get it.
Yeah.
I do, but like, don't do that until later on. And then that show eventually went from a shotgun approach to a very specific type of audience who knew a specific type of nerd fandom. I think this will actually create a lot of fans of Scooby-Doo going forward.
Really?
Because people who don't know what we like about Scooby-Doo growing up, younger people aren't going to relate to that because they never saw that. They're never going to see that.
But the jokes don't land. They're not even clever.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what I'm saying.
It's going to create a basis like, okay, why has she got her own show? Where is that from? Then they're going to go back and look at the old IP,
right,
and bring up resurgence. So whether or not it's good, this is the cool thing about television. Whether or not it's good doesn't matter as long as they still hold the IP and can still make more product later on down the road.
Yeah, but if you saw a bad TV show, would you want to look back and try to find other things about it, or would you watch the 2 episodes and then forget about it and move on? If you didn't know, like, okay, your generation Z, Alpha, whatever the fuck the new generation of preteens and kids growing up now are, and you have no big basis for Scooby-Doo. You had young parents that didn't give a shit either. You see this pop up and you watch it. If you were kind of sitting here like I am going, the jokes aren't funny, I don't really, it's kind of interesting, the art looks cool, but the jokes aren't funny, I don't get this. What would lead that person to want to look up the rest of it and try to look at other things?
Well, you're assuming that person, like the younger generation, wouldn't like it at
all.
I'm
assuming I'm just saying so someone like me that's watching it but has no basis of what Scooby-Doo is looking at it based purely on the jokes and like how the show flowed and the characters and the way everything was.
I would probably be more interested in where these characters, why they got their own origin story. That'd be my interest because we get that in the very beginning. This is the origin story of Velma. Well, who the fuck is Velma?
Right. Well, they're trying to show you.
Yeah, but like they don't know why she has an origin story. Kind of like when we do like the Kate Bishop thing. Why is she important? Is she important? For us, no, because we have Hawkeye. That's it. There's the end all be all. Anything past that is not for me.
Hawkeye's not end all be all.
But you know what I'm saying for that character.
And
fun fact, he probably won't get to play Hawkeye ever again because he might lose his fucking leg.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Hope Jeremy Renner gets better.
Good luck to you, brother.
But
he can still play the guitar, so.
But kind of segueing out of that a little bit, you also brought this up a little bit last week, and it's going to kind of move on into our main topic. But you mentioned a new Zelda game is going to be coming out.
Yeah, after Breath of the Wild and a much kind of wait for Breath of the Wild 2 that we're not getting. We're getting Tears of a Kingdom.
Yes. So kind of an interesting title. What do you think that's going to...
So if you've played Breath of the Wild, anyone's listening, you know how vast the map is. And that's the great thing about games nowadays. We go from the NES Zelda or Mario. Hey, what do we got? We got 4 levels. We got 4 levels. And then we got 4 levels within those levels. And that's how we get around. And then we went from that to Super Mario.
Round, get
around. Get around. Stomp, stomp. And just stomping on turtles the whole time.
You remember the old it was the old man scooters, and they'd have that in the background. They're like, get yourself a buggy today. Financing available. Round, get around, I get around. Woo!
I could just you're telling me I could just drive a car on the sidewalk. But yeah, so like the whole open world of Zelda, which was, to me, is what it really was supposed to be. Zelda is the biggest open world that you should have.
What do you think like the first true Zelda game was, where it's like you pick this up and you're like, this is the definition of a Zelda game?
Link to the Past.
Yeah.
Yes, because you get 2 maps. You got a dark world, you got your world, and you got to fight your way between both just to save this one girl.
Right.
And that's the whole crux of every Zelda game. Just like Mario, I got to save Peach's ass. Or stop this one guy from creating identity theft in Mario Sunshine. But those are the parts of the game that we know.
Yeah,
they're both the same, But the only thing is, this is a fantasy. This isn't a platformer. There are platform aspects to it, but all intents and purposes, it's an RPG.
Yeah.
Okay, it is the role playing game. This and Final Fantasy are the end all be all of RPGs. Period. That's not an opinion either. That's based on sales and actual
That's
fucking
based on
reviews.
fact, motherfucker.
That's a fact, motherfucker. So like, even Final Fantasy is like, we need to get on that Nintendo action, like, and that's a fact. Final Fantasy 3 is on the Super Nintendo for a reason. But when you first open the game in Breath of the Wild, you come out of a cave and your character automatically, without you touching the controller, automatically runs to this little tip of a cliff, and you see it. Mm-hmm. The world of Hyrule.
And then you jump down with your little glider.
Yeah, but like even that's even later.
Yeah.
Like you have to work for that. But like that right there, that opener is how you should open a Zelda game.
Well, how do you think this one's going to roll? Is this going to be a continuation of that story?
Yeah, so I can't say how the villain is going to play out, because the villains do change in some Zelda games, and that to me that makes them lesser.
Yeah,
because it's not the same villain.
It's not Ganondorf every time.
Yeah, but it's not, like playing a Zelda game or playing a Mario game, and Bowser is not the bad guy. They're not good games most of the time. Those are not good games.
Well, Bowser is usually behind whatever other villain you're fighting. So, like, even in Sunshine, when you're fighting Shadow Mario, who turns out to be Bowser Jr., was still sent there by Bowser. Yeah. So it's like, usually he's still the top of the food chain. Yeah, but
in Hyrule, so many villains.
Right.
So many underscored characters. Like, even one of my favorite handheld games was A Link Between Worlds, which is the map of Link to the Past. New puzzles, same fucking terrain,
right?
And it's just like, who's the villain? Is it Ganon? No. Fuck. I still got to fight the son of a bitch, but it's not the main bad guy. So there is kind of a storytelling purpose of the Zelda games when you're trying to layer it on top of itself, because it's a multiverse. Let me put it that way. Link is literally the link between all these universes.
Right.
He has to live.
Not the Game Boy link cable.
Yeah. But he has to live and die in all these worlds. You're literally playing the same person in every game, as opposed to Zelda, who is different in every game. Ganon is different in every game, but he will always be the same Link, whether he's a child, an adult, a teenager, whatever. And Tears of the Kingdom, I think, will be a close second to Breath of the Wild when it comes to gameplay.
All right.
Because this will, from what I'm seeing, I'm not seeing any gameplay yet, but I can only speculate. I can only sue him later if it's not what I think it is. But it's a world in the sky, which they did try to play with Skyward Sword that came out for the Wii U.
That had different art style. It kind of had like that Paper Mario flat look to it.
Yeah, and it was for the Wii U. They ported it to Switch, which it wasn't meant for the Switch, so it's going to look different. But I think this will be the next big thing out of Nintendo Switch.
Well, Nintendo's been really killing it right now, because they've got that Mario movie coming up.
Yep.
They've got the new Zelda game, and then you've also heard rumors of the new Zelda movie. So actually, that's a perfect way for us to kind of move on into our main topic of this episode. And you know what, baby? It's going to be a fistful of quarters episode. Drop a quarter in. We're actually going to be talking about our top 5 favorite and least favorite first-party Nintendo games. And this one took me a minute to kind of write out, because my favorites I was able to key in pretty fast. But my least favorite games, I had to keep double checking, and most of them were titles that were ported to Nintendo systems.
And that's kind of the hard thing about Nintendo, is like their IP is so high, like it is top fucking tier, games and stuff like that. They rarely make shit games, as opposed to, you can actually argue that with Microsoft and Sony, they don't make shit.
Yeah,
third party makes shit.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, that's a fucking fact. Okay.
Yeah.
If I think of like Sony off the gate, Uncharted, fucking out the gate, Lara Croft, Tomb Raider, fucking Spyro, these were top tier fucking games, and you're not gonna fucking beat it. Crash fucking Bandicoot, one of the coolest fucking platformers of his time. Microsoft, Halo, fucking Halo. How big was that shit growing up? How fucking massive.
And you have the outliers like Sims and Grand Theft Auto that are third parties, Call of Duty.
Yeah.
So it's like you do have your outliers, but for the most part, I think that'll be another Fistful of Quarters episode.
Yeah.
Our top, it'll have to be top 10 least favorite third-party games that we've played.
Yeah, there's a few.
There's quite a few.
Spider-Man's in the top though with Activision.
Yes, that's that. Well, which one?
One, Spider-Man the movie, the game for the GameCube. Spider-Man 2's fun, but you asked me to chase a fucking balloon down, I'm going to punch you in the face.
How about deliver some pizzas?
Yeah, no. I remember playing that game and doing like just like loops around a fucking building just to fuck that pizza up as he like remember it showed damage, and I'm just like land smack bash, and I'm just like, here's your shit. Pete, we need you to make some more pizza. What stops me from eating the pizza and then robbing you?
I'm Spider-Man, bitch.
Yeah. I'm the Spider-Man.
Well, do we want to go with top 5 favorites or least favorites first?
At least start from the bottom. Start from the bottom. Now we're here.
All right.
Like the song says, which is grammatically incorrect because we never know where he went from the bottom.
But now he's here.
Whichever that is.
That could be lower.
Exactly. He says it in the song. We start from the bottom. Now we're here. Now my boys are with me here. And it's just like, did you bring all your friends down to your level and fuck their world up? Shit. You know more about this if you play pool with me and Mikey on like a Thursday night.
That's a podcast all in itself.
Oh yeah, where we break down the retrospective rap songs.
Now, my top 5 favorites and least favorites definitely have a theme. Because again, as I've mentioned a few times on the show, which I do need to eventually change, but I never played a lot of the Zelda games. You know, I was mainly a Mario kid. So if we're talking first party Nintendo games, you know, Kirby was very inoffensive to the point it never got in my favorites or least favorites. See, Metroid was fun.
I never think about Kirby ever.
Yeah.
Because I never play the game.
Pokemon was fun, but most of those were handhelds, and we were kind of sticking with home consoles with this. So a lot of these games are Mario based, especially in my top 5 favorites. And worst, they're kind of in no particular order because I just remember all of these being rather lackluster. I would say number 5 is probably the only one that counts with the ranking, and I would say that'd be Mario Party 8 for the Wii.
Okay.
The reason why that one actually hits my top 5 least favorite, one, I've not played a shit ton of first party Nintendo games that I didn't enjoy.
Yeah.
Like you were saying, the first party games are usually enjoyable to some aspect. This one, though, was a major letdown because it was for the Wii. It was the first console that didn't necessarily support high definition, but it supported widescreen. Two different things. Yeah. In this Mario Party game, there was no widescreen. It was still letterboxed. So on our big fancy HD TV, we have a Mario game that's the only game in our collection that's letterboxed. And the graphics looked worse than the GameCube games. Like, you could tell they tried making it sharper, but due to that, you could, like, count the pixels around their arms, where, like, the GameCube one was, like, rubbery smooth and, like, super nice and, you know, polished. This felt like
it was mobile... Did it seem like it was rushed?
Maybe, but honestly, looking at the time frame of the creation, it definitely wasn't. Like, it wasn't like rushed to market. They had a few years of working with the Wii hardware before it came out. It just really did not live up to my excitement. That didn't necessarily mean that I didn't put a shit ton of hours in it with the family, because at that point, my little sister was old enough to play like small games like Mario Party. Very easy to assemble and get by. Especially for the Wii, half of those fucking mini games were swing the Wiimote around or do something on the screen, and she was old enough to do that. So between me, my sister, and Eric, we would just play the fuck out of that game. But in the back of my head, I'm still going, I hate that it's not widescreen and it looks like it was a mobile game blown up to the TV. So number 5 is that one for me, and then the rest of them just kind of are in no particular order.
The worst game I have ever had the pleasure of
playing. You're starting at the bottom.
Yeah, the worst game.
Okay.
Well, let's okay, I'll do it like you did. Sonic Heroes is fucking awful for the GameCube.
Now, is that a first-party game? I thought that was multi-platform.
Nope. Sonic Heroes was only for the GameCube.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what I was thinking about. It was like, all right, yep, I had the purple triangle in the corner.
Yep.
Sonic Heroes is ridiculously awful. You play as Sonic, Knuckles, and Tails. The problem with this game isn't so much the platforming as it is the unfinished game that glitched so fucking hard. The clipping was so bad, it was damn near unplayable. And at the time, there was no internet patch. There was no re-release. They didn't even bother to do a fucking redo of the game for newer platforms. So that's how bad the game was.
Yeah.
So
I've seen quite a few people play that one online.
And I'm not saying Sonic games are terrible, but this one is one of 3 awful fucking games that's the Sonic platform had come over. And then, you know, what sucks is, you know, Sega doesn't exist anymore. It technically is Nintendo now.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's another part of it. I don't think they knew how to handle that kind of situation. And with the world of 3D, Sonic doesn't mean any fucking thing.
No, Sonic belongs in a 2D platform.
Mm-hmm.
It really does. The whole core gameplay, the best games in the series are 2D, and that's really where it belongs.
Well, the whole thing fucking Sonic's based on is like, how fast could you beat a Mario level?
Yeah,
that's what it's all about. Let's make a game so fucking fast that
for the first level.
And why? Because just like I did at Mikey's house the other night, I put on Super Mario Brothers for the SNES, and I just sat there and muscle memoried my way to the very end of the game in front of him. Yeah. And he was just like, what the fuck?
Then I'd say my number 4, I'm kind of sorting them in my head a little bit better now. Number 4 for me is another game that I feel like you would probably agree with because you've been playing one of the recent games. Another genre that belongs in a flat 2D world, Pokemon. But this one is Pokemon Snap.
For the 64.
For the 64.
That game made no fucking sense to me. You're just taking pictures of Pokemon.
Yep.
There was no strategy in it. Like, there are parts of the game where you have to take a photo a certain way, if I remember.
Yep. You have to get the... so I played it again recently, which is what made me think of it.
It's on the Switch now, ain't it?
Yes. It's part of the expansion pack thing where you can get the Nintendo 64 channel.
Yeah, I saw that fucking list. It looks like shit.
It does, but they're going to be... They just added Mario Party. Yeah. So you've got a Mario Party game now. So that I enjoy that. But I played it again recently because I remember really liking it. I was like, oh, I remember playing this as a kid. Dude, the controls are so fucking hard. The gameplay is really slow. You're stuck in a cart and you just gotta look around and snap photos. You've got a specific amount of photo film that you can take, so it's not like you can just rapid fire the entire fucking time.
I think it was like 6 or 7 years ago, my buddy of mine, he broke out a 64 and his kids we're starting to get into Pokemon and stuff like that, and he broke out a 64 and he bought new 64 controllers from a game store who made third-party developments and stuff like that, and he put on Pokemon Snap, and I'm just like, I haven't seen this game in a very long time, and I'm like, oh my god, this game is fucking sucks, and he was like into it and shit. I'm just like, yeah, but like the Game Boy games were the shit. What the fuck is this?
And one that didn't make my top 5 favorite or worse, but was really good, was Pokemon Stadium for the 64. That was really fun. But Snap was not.
That actually had like a Final Fantasy look to it.
Yeah, but Snap, no.
One of my other ones, and this is going to piss a lot of people off, was Legend of Zelda Wind Waker for the GameCube.
See, and that's why I was wondering what was your first favorite game, because I remember a lot of people loving Wind Waker.
I do not like that game at all. I think it's because I wasn't part of the 64 thing, where it was Majora's Mask and Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, which are perfect games in the Zelda community. But Wind Waker, I do not fucking like. It looks too cartoony. It looks shitty. I will say Spirit Tracks is better, and that will piss a lot of people off because that game is universally fucking hated.
Well, there goes half of our listeners that are tuning out right now.
Fuck you.
So is it mainly just the art style, the story?
So, like, I grew up playing the SNES. I grew up seeing other games that could look good. Like, we grew up seeing games that looked almost lifelike.
Right.
Tony Hawk is one. Tell me you couldn't do a Zelda game that looked almost like that. Looking like a person, an actual person. And that's what pissed a lot of people off about when like that whole E3 thing happened. There showed, like, we've watched the thing about Nintendo showing Link fighting Ganon, and it looks so fucking real. And guess what came out? Wind Waker came out.
Yeah.
So fuck y'all. for coming that out.
Especially because around that time, Melee was coming out. You were getting the super realistic look and everything else, and they were like, "Oh shit, is that going to be like the model?"
And they didn't even get close to that until Twilight Princess. That's between the GameCube and the Wii.
Yep.
And by the time that came out, I'd already had a Wii and a classic controller, so I'm playing that. Mm-hmm. Fuck Wind Waker. That's a game I could skip.
And all right, well, I'll go with my controversial one then. My number 3, Super Mario Kart for the Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
That I am surprised at the behemoth that Mario Kart is now. It's like with 8 Deluxe and like everything they've got, that this kicked it off. This is the one that they made a sequel for that I played a shit ton on the 64. The original Super Mario Kart is horrible, and you can't blame the technology because, again, it didn't make the list, but some of my favorites were NES games like RC Pro-Am, Pole Position. All of those were really good, fun racing games on a generation older console. You can't tell me you couldn't have made Mario Kart on the Super Nintendo a little better. Mm-hmm. This game sucks ass. I would play the Game Boy game of Mario Kart before I played those.
So it's kind of a funny story when I read about Mario Kart, Super Mario Kart for the SNES. It was there was a lot of backlash from the game F-Zero. Mm-hmm. Because kids couldn't play it. It was too fast. And like kids who did play it weren't winning.
Right.
And so the karting thing, and it's just like, okay, yeah, karts are for kids. You know? But I will say, as much as you hate it, they did spawn it. It is the
that's
first.
what I'm saying. It's shocking to me.
Yeah. And
I mean, in my humble opinion, it has to be Mario Kart 64 that saved it, because that's a fucking top tier game. I didn't put it in mine because there's other reasons, but that game was one of the few that I put in so many fucking hours.
I'm not a fan of racing games, period. So,
so fuck you.
Well, like I'm just saying, like I could see where you're coming from on that. So, like another one for me, which I'm surprised didn't kill the franchise, was The Legend of Zelda Link's Adventure 2 for the NES.
Okay.
This is hated. Venom in the vein, hated.
Okay.
So imagine Mario, platformer, we're bumping up and down, side to side. Imagine you're doing that. What does Zelda look like? It's a top down. You're looking down. You're going up a level, down a level, over, left. This one, they changed it into a fucking platformer. And then, to fuck you, it switches when you leave the town. First of all, the town is poorly rendered for the NES. Right. Poorly fucking rendered. You leave the town and you go on a trail. Now it's a top down, but it's a massive map and you're like this fucking big. And then monsters come out of nowhere, like fucking Pokemon. Yeah. And then you turns back into it turns back into the platform side to side. So the game transitions from a top down to a side to side. The fighting is shit. And it's the NES, so it is limited on what it can do. Yeah. You still have your A and B, and it sucks. Oh my god, that sounds like a headache. And then you had to know the glitches to beat the game, because the game glitches. You can go through walls and shit. I didn't beat this game until it came out for the Game Boy Game Boy Advance. Yeah, I played it on an SP, and I had a Nintendo Power silver cover Nintendo Power of the 2 Zelda games, Zelda, Wind Waker, and Link's Awakening. Yeah, and all that. But in there was a guide on how to beat the game. That's the only way I knew how to beat it. Fuck. I looked up forums about this game. It said people from like the fucking early 90s couldn't beat this game. No. Without contacting Nintendo. Like that's how much of a shit game it was. And it could have killed the franchise. Yeah. Because you're going from the first game, which is a golden cartridge, a gold fucking cartridge, to this, the most anticipated sequel of an RPG next to probably Mario or Castlevania or Kirby or Mega Man or some shit. And you're just like, you shit the bed on this one. Yeah, and again, it is fucking terrible.
Maybe that's the game I need to play first to get into the series.
Yeah, yeah, I fucking hate it.
And both of these games rank number 2 for me. But Double Dragon For the original NES,
The beat 'em up.
I do not understand the attraction to these games.
The beat 'em up games?
Well, I like beat 'em up games, but the Double Dragon games suck. I don't get it.
For the NES?
Yes.
Oh,
Like,
the
they
NES is
control horribly. It doesn't know.
The other thing I remember about the Double Dragon NES was one of the main bosses looks like a guy who's suffering from radiation sickness. He's got super fucking huge, but the way they made the bumps on him and stuff, it looks like he's got a tumor in his brain. And it's just like,
Plus, I like Punch Out. That's a good one. The mechanics in that work fine. And there's a couple other of the beat 'em ups that I cannot pull off the top of my head right off. But
there's like Rival Turf. There's Final Fight. A couple games.
Final Fight, yeah, I remember playing that.
Yeah,
one.
so like me and Mikey recently this past Friday actually turned on the Switch, and he had the SNES package or whatever was on it, and we were just going through playing some games, and we found Rival Turf, which is two kids. It's two real kids, like real people, and they're like pointing and they look like thugs and shit. Two little white kids, just like this. But when you play the game, you're playing as a white guy and a large black man. Like Robin Big.
Yeah.
And you're in the streets, and you're just a side-by-side beat 'em up, and you're fighting heroin addicts and drug dealers. And it's just like... me and him were sucking at this game.
Yeah.
Because, first of all, I was playing with the Switch controller, and only one controller was working.
Oh, no.
So I didn't activate the left, so I'm just like trying to do shit, and I'm just like moving, I'm just punching. What is happening? I don't know what's going on. And it's SNES game, so the controls are shit when it came to those fighting games, because the R buttons don't do anything. They did not use the whole controller in this game, so I'm just like pressing shit. I'm just like, oh shit, if you press A and jump, he does this. He does a roundhouse. And it's just like, oh fuck, he only do it like 3 times. I'm like, this game fucking sucks.
And that's just the way I felt on Double Dragon. It just it didn't control well. I didn't care for it.
That's an IP that I would love to see remade now.
Yeah.
That would be the
Let's
shit.
do it with current technology. That'd be fun.
Like Mortal Kombat.
Yes. So what you got for your number 1 or your number 2? What, are you doing your number 2 or number 1?
I'm doing my 2. Second from the bottom. Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles for the GameCube.
Okay.
It was only
I remember hearing about that one.
It was the only Final Fantasy game specifically for the GameCube.
Yeah.
And I got it because I was a fan of Final Fantasy. You know, I wanted to, my buddy of mine had 7 for the PlayStation, and that was a cool game to look at. And I was like, fuck it, let's see what this one is. You know, maybe it's different. And it's different.
It is really different.
It's straight up fucking terrible. And there's a big community that loves this game. And I played it. I could not get into it. The characters weren't likable. The story was kind of shit, if I remember. And I'm just like, you know what? I got Mario Sunshine. I guess, why did I rent this game? Why did I rent this game when I could play Gun? Which, the best. If we're talking about third-party games, one of the best third-party games ever to come to console. Gun. Red Dead couldn't be Red Dead today without the game Gun. That's a fact. Famous line of the first time you walk into a town, you see 2 guys running after a woman in a blue dress. Old West town, you know what you hear? Give us your money, bitch. Like that's how it happens. That's how it goes. That's what happens when you go to a town. Give us your money, bitch. But this, give me my money back, bitch.
Give me my money back, bitch.
Like even if I was like Scott the Woz and started collecting games, this is probably one of the last ones I would try to get.
Well, actually, that leads into my number 1 least favorite, and it kind of started with that whole idea of looking up retro games, seeing the covers, and just being like, ooh, I want to try that. And like buying a super cheap game on eBay, or back when it wasn't GameStop. What was the other game store?
There was EB Games. There was Game Masters. There was Game Builders, which was another one, which now just does tabletop stuff.
This one was in Spartanburg. Did you ever go to Spartanburg much?
Gamecock Gaming.
Either way, it was...
Woo, go Gamecocks!
It was another one of those that was a semi-chain that there were multiple of, but there was that one there. So it's like, that's where I first learned that there was like a Beavis and Butthead game for the Super Nintendo.
I had that game.
And just like weird shit like that. So I would just kind of walk through and see different shit. And I saw this label for the regular NES, which I just got. And I was like, oh, ooh, my angsty teenage brain likes this. Skate or Die 2. One of the worst games I have ever played, and I think part of the reason is because it was such a letdown.
If I remember right, in Tony Hawk's Underground, the first one, you could run up to an arcade machine and Skate or Die was on one of the arcade machines.
Maybe, I'm not sure.
For the GameCube. I think it was for the GameCube. But yeah.
Either way, I was literally into skateboarding. I liked that culture. I liked Tony and Bam, all that shit. I am getting into retro gaming. I spot that and I'm just like, yes, this feels everything I like. I'm a skater kid that likes retro gaming. Skate or Die too. If I want to complain about Double Dragon and the controls on that, I would play that all day before Skate or Die. You can barely move on that fucking skateboard. Once you finally get up enough speed, controlling it is a son of a bitch. The fighting mechanics are all off. You move way too stilted and your enemies move way too fast.
So you die a lot instead of skate.
Yes. It sucks.
It's the classic NES trope of you need to get better.
Yes. Yeah, get better, stupid ass.
Yeah. It sucks to suck, don't it, bro? Yeah.
But it's like, I just remember seeing that really cool artwork on the front, taking it home after spending my $10 on it.
$10?
$10.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oof.
Dude, I was happy. I was excited because I remember I heard of that title before too. I was like, Skate or Die. Oh yeah, that must be one of those good ones. Yeah, so that kind of.
That's why I didn't like the Tony Hawk games, Pro Skater games. I didn't like those because there was time limits.
Well, see, I like the Pro Skaters.
I didn't like the Pro Skaters because of the time limits. But when Underground 2
honestly, the Pro Skaters and Undergrounds make it into my top 10 favorite of the third parties. But yeah, on that note, I guess it's time for us to wiggle our way in.
I got one more.
Oh, you got your number one worst. Oh, sorry, I forgot.
Friday the 13th for the NES.
I was gonna put that, but I've personally never played it.
I did.
I was trying to just put games that I've personally played.
I tried my hardest to play this fucking game. Granted, I was a child. And then, Ken Osborne, a friend of mine, had the emulator.
Yep.
I downloaded an emulator for him. I gave it to him, put it on his computer, and I gave him 5 NES games. Mario, Duck Hunt. I can't remember the other 2, but Friday the 13th is one of them. Because I had an NES USB controller.
Yes.
Hooked it up for him, showed him how to boot it up and everything. And we sat there and tried to play this fucking unplayable game. The whole point is to save the children and not get murdered by Jason.
Yeah.
Who's purple, by the way.
Purple and blue.
Purple and blue. You're attacked by the decapitated head of his mother every now and then. And it is almost impossible to play. A better version of this is the Friday the 13th card game I made up where you have to go from cabin to cabin without being killed. So, like, that was better to play. And I made that up in my head.
I am the game master.
With poker cards, with actual poker cards. So, yeah. That's the worst.
It's pretty fucking bad.
Oh, it is magically terrible.
Well, since I almost skipped over you anyway, you want to start with your number 5 favorite?
Metroid Prime.
Metroid Prime
for the GameCube.
I feel like Uncle Rogers just said Metroid Prime.
Uncle, oh my god! Why you woman? Why you play woman?
Dude, that blew my fucking mind when I found out Samus was a woman. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, so I was a big fan of the Metroid games growing up because I had Super Metroid for the Super Nintendo, and if you beat Super Metroid a certain way, you find out it's a woman.
Yeah.
But the cool thing about Metroid Prime was if you beat the game within a certain amount of time, if you beat the game period, you get Metroid for the NES. Unlockable in the game.
That's cool.
If you beat it in an under time limit, you get Super Metroid in the game. And I was like, I gotta beat this fucking game. So I broke out the Game Shark. I'm just like, oh, I'm getting 40 fucking missiles in the beginning. Blowing fucking enemies left and right. Just
see, I heard that game was not well received because it tried to basically turn itself into a Doom clone.
So it is a first-person shooter. Mm-hmm. That's the thing. But the puzzles were fantastic. The enemies were cool. They revamped a bunch of them because it got a lot of pushback because it is a side-to-side game for NES and SNES. But it's so much fucking fun as a shooter too.
Right.
Like it didn't take anything away from it. You got to see the world. You're building a 3D world in a first-person shooter. It's the best kind of way to do that. You could do like third person, like Grand Theft Auto and stuff like that. But when you're shooting, you kind of want first person.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, so it was a fantastic game when it came out, and I loved that game. That was one of the few games I've had for I still have that game technically, and I don't even have a GameCube.
Yeah, you can still have the game, but not the system.
But like I still like I have a Wii.
Yeah,
but I have that still. The only thing I'm missing is the action replay thing I had. I wish I still had that. That's the only thing I would have kept from my GameCube. I could give a shit about the Game Boy player or anything like that.
Oh, I've still got my Game Boy player.
Yeah. I wonder if the Game Shark still works on the Game Boy player.
Probably.
You just have to prop it up on some like blocks or something, so you can stick it in because they had a handle and shit.
Just hang it by the GameCube handle; it'll be fine.
Yeah, probably hold that motherfucker up too.
I'd say my number 5 would be Super Mario World for Super Nintendo.
Yeah, so that's a fantastic game by itself. I'm always tempted to come home after work and try to play that on the NES.
So I've teetered.
You're talking about the Super Nintendo version?
Yes, the Super Nintendo version, and I've kind of teetered between that one, the original for the NES, and Mario 3 for the NES being my favorites. But after enough time, Mario World just really controls the best. It's got the best enemies. It looks really good. Great soundtrack. A lot of great levels. And as much as I still love the original and number 3, they're still big time favorites. They would rank like 6 and 7 in my tops.
I think it's weird because it's like Super Mario World is the only game I know where I wouldn't get anxious when I'm underwater.
Yeah,
because you're not just dying of hell. Do do. Fuck.
Well, that was only in 64 that they started implementing
and Sunshine if you went underwater.
Yeah, and Sunshine. But yeah, the 2D platformers, they never really did underwater.
I love watching the Mario Maker guys do the Super Mario versions and then just brutally go through it. I'm just like, this is my friend's mom watching me play Super Mario. I'm just like, why are you playing it like that? Let me show you. Bam, 14 lives. Your turn. I'll carry this team.
Yeah, and plus
a lot of cool features too.
I put in a shit ton of hours on this game on my Game Boy too, with the Super Mario Advance series. They also reissued this one on the Game Boy. So yeah, after enough kind of time and thought, I would definitely put Super Mario World right above the original in number 3.
Yeah, that fantastic game. That was almost in my top 5.
Yeah.
My next one was Mario Sunshine.
That almost made it up.
Yeah, Mario Sunshine is fantastic for me. It was the first Mario game I had for the GameCube. So much fucking fun.
It is.
And like even now, like you let me borrow, I still haven't played it yet, but it's like I need to because I just want to play it again.
Yeah.
But I wish I'd had the GameCube controller Joy-Cons to play it, but
those things are goddamn expensive.
Everything's fucking expensive with the Switch. But yeah, that is a fantastic game.
It is.
The whole thing is like you're just changing up Mario altogether, but still keeping the platforming. You're still keeping, the kind of Mario 64 kind of thing.
You're still jumping through paintings to get to other worlds and everything else.
And you got to learn like the new way to jump. You can got the 1, the 2, and then the waha. Like you got that, and now you could.
Then you can hold it by switching FLUDD around to be like the propeller system.
Oh, and by the way, your best friend is a robot on your backpack that dies.
You love throwing out the more, but
it does.
It's fucking dead.
It's the Last of Us of Nintendo. Mario Sunshine is the Last of Us of Nintendo.
No, this one also almost made my list as well. I thoroughly enjoyed this one, especially being a big Mario fan. The one thing though that still kind of annoyed me with it, and I think it stems from spoilers, with Mario 64 is definitely going to be on this list, but like being such a fan of that and playing like just Mario. When Sunshine came out, I was like, God damn it, he's got something on his back the entire time. It doesn't feel like a regular Mario game. And then like Sunshine came out, Odyssey came out, and I was like, Galaxy. Yes, thank you. Galaxy came out, and I was like, yes, it's like a regular Mario game again. I'm controlling just Mario. And then Odyssey came out, and he's got that fucked up hat, and I'm like, God damn it. But no, I liked it, especially because you also had like the different mechanic of you could run out of water.
Yeah. And you had to refill it constantly.
You had to refill it. You had different fruits would do different things and clean up different spills. Great mechanics in that game.
I think one of the first things I figured out was you can hold the fruit and have to bring it to that basket and then try and Kobe in that thing into the basket.
Yes.
It's almost impossible.
Yes, it is. But when you did it, you got, I think, like a...
You got a star.
Yeah, a star, or you got like an alternate Yoshi.
Yeah, and then you got the blue and red coins you had to collect. And then there was a sewer underground.
Yes.
And what's the name of the town? Flotino?
Delfino Plaza.
Yes, dolphin.
Yeah.
Yes, it's dolphin.
Yeah.
The whole island shaped like a dolphin.
I'd say my number 4 on top 5 would be Mario Party 5. And that one is on the GameCube. And now this one, the reason I put this one up so high is my girl and I
was that the first for the GameCube?
Yes, because they made a couple for the GameCube. They eventually made some that implemented like the microphone and shit like that. None of that. This is just straight bare bones Mario Party. The graphics were great in it. The mini games were good, and I would set this bitch to fucking 80 turns, pop a bag of popcorn, and sit in my room all fucking day and play this game. I put in so many fucking hours with this by myself, because my parents did not. They would play games with me every so often. They would not play Mario Party, even on 20 rounds. They thought it took way too fucking long to get through. So they did not want to sit for that amount of time. And
it's like a board game.
It is. It's exactly what it is. It's a board game where everyone takes turns, and at the end of your turn, you play a mini game, and then you get right back to the board game. Collect stars. Whoever has the most stars at the end of the game wins. So it's very easy mechanics, fun, quick little mini games, and even the extra games that were in that. You had a cart builder where it was kind of like Monster Garage, where you could like buy different parts, soup up your destruction mobile, and like go out in like this turf and like shoot and kill like your opponents and shit. And it was just like this crazy. It was kind of like a mixture between what would like be an army tank game and Monster Garage and like Robot Wars. It was just really cool. It had a lot of replay value, and I just remember playing the shit out of that game for the GameCube, and it being the one that I could entertain myself with for the longest time. I would eventually get like burnt out playing like Luigi's Mansion or Sunshine. This game kept it so different, I could keep myself entertained for fucking hours with it.
Now, does it have good single player? Like, is the single player just as fun as with the...
To me, it is, especially because you can always set like your different computer players to like different strengths.
Oh, okay.
So what I would do sometimes is set like everyone to easy except for one. I'd set him to like hard.
Yeah.
And this, so it's like you had like this one asshole player, you know, where you'd set everyone to hard or set everyone to easy.
I just couldn't get it because I didn't like the Mario Party games either.
Yeah.
Yeah, just something I didn't like.
No, I totally get that. But no, it's for me though. For the lonely teenage kid that would like pop between playing this and then like turning on G4 TV and watching X Play and Attack of the Show and then plop this back on. Yeah, early memories. Early memories.
My number 3 is Luigi's Mansion.
See, and that's the reason why Sunshine and Mansion didn't make it on there. Is honestly, I put that one on first because I didn't want to overwhelm this with GameCube games.
And I will say the third one is fantastic.
Yeah, you've been playing that recently on the Switch.
It has a 2-player option mode, which is fun. The boss battle is not overly unfair as long as you know how to work the system. Yeah, I beat it in like a day and a half. I was talking to a guy about that. He's like, well, it is a kid's game. I'm just like, shut the fuck up. Get the fuck out of here.
Let me have my trophy, god damn it.
But it's just like, yeah, all of Nintendo are kids games. Yeah. All of them. So like video games are for children. Yeah. So
no, not Call of Duty.
It is.
Not Halo.
It is. You're killing it.
Grand Theft Auto.
Especially for kids. It teaches you about the real goddamn world. Fuck you, CJ! L1, R2, L1, L2, R1, R1, up, down, left, right. X triangle is infinite fucking ammo for the PlayStation 2. But you can't, in Vice City, not San Andreas.
Fact check him. Let us know in the Discord.
You know how many fucking cheap books we had growing up? Like, oh, what this one is? Oh, this has got the new San Andreas ones. And then the internet came out. Those books went to shit.
Yeah, they immediately went bankrupt.
I remember having like a stack of fucking notebook paper almost and like folded up inside the sleeve of the game.
Oh yeah, like some of our old Fistful of Quarter episodes. I pulled out my GameCube games that still have like all this printed off material with cheat codes and all this other shit.
There was a guy on YouTube. I forget what his name, but they had his mom had told him, hey, I'm getting rid of the SNES. Do you want to get it? Do you want to have it back? And he still had the boxes the games came in and stuff. Yeah. And he pulled out the box for Legend of Zelda, Link to the Past, and it was kind of heavy. He pulls it out, and it was the map his dad drew.
Oh, wow.
Of how he went every spot. And it was like made of index cards.
Yeah.
Taped together.
Oh, that's so cool.
And it was I think it was like I think it was like 8x8
Yeah.
index cards, all scotch taped together. The scotch tapes was like turning brown around the edges and shit. And he's just like, holy shit, my dad kept it. And on the back of it was where to find everything. And
right.
His dad had drawn out the map. And I went online, I found like all these people's parents had did this with them.
That's so cool, though.
What is like the map, you know, because in the game you can't pull up the map, but it's a vague map. Mm-hmm. But this one was sectioned off and where to go, where to find stuff. And I'm just like, I would have framed that goddamn thing.
Oh, fuck yes.
But it was like hand drawn with pencil on fucking index cards. And I was like, I'm about to tear it up a little bit. I'm like, that's fantastic.
and again, the reason, you were talking about Luigi's Mansion, though.
Yeah. So in Luigi's Mansion, it's the first Luigi by himself, as opposed to the Mario Missing game.
Yeah.
Which isn't that good. It's actually, I think, one of the most hated SNES games for Nintendo. But we got the great story of Luigi.
Yeah.
You know, he's scared all the time, but he gets his own backpack.
Yep.
That does cool shit.
Yep.
We get the side scientist character. Egad. He shows up again in 3. Mm-hmm. We get new materials in 3, but like the fun part of the game was flashlight and vacuum. And it reminded me of like a Ghostbusters.
I was just about to say that.
And I'm a big fan of Ghostbusters anyway, so playing that game kind of lulled me in to where I didn't need to go out and buy the Ghostbusters games, which was a big thing that happened for PS3 and PS4. But that was a mainstay game, and it still has so much replay value because you can always go back, just like Luigi's Mansion 3. You can go back and try to find everything in the game.
I would almost say Luigi's Mansion is a little bit more superior to Sunshine, only because I remember, and this will lead in, of course, later on, there being so much lore and talking on the playground about like Mario 64 and like all the hidden potential that's within this game. Luigi's Mansion kind of felt the same.
Yeah.
It felt like there was an unlimited amount of possibilities of secrets you could find and everything, because the map itself was very small. But you would keep running into all these little hidden rooms in this tiny map. So it's like you kept going, oh, I just got to keep digging deeper. What's deeper in this layer? What's deeper in the onion? So it's like, I just remember feeling very captivated by that game. And plus, that was around the time that I really started liking a bunch of horror things. So it was played in perfect.
And a really cool thing about Luigi's Mansion, especially the third one, is it's 13 plus levels. You're in a hotel. In the mansion, it feels the same way. It feels like it's multi-leveled, even though you're in just a mansion.
Yeah.
The cash and money thing, I think, is hilarious.
Yeah,
it's just like, and it's just like, there's money in the game. This whole time, there's been money in the Mario universe that exists.
Coins.
yeah, but it's coins. But this is cash, motherfucker, and gold bars and shit. So like, I would have loved at that time if they had made like a DLC game for Melee where you had to play as Luigi's Mansion Luigi and Mario Sunshine Mario, and them just trying to duke it out and fight it. Because now, if you did it now, the Mario Sunshine would probably kick Luigi's ass because he's got a goop character. Luigi backwards, whatever that is.
Gooigi.
Yeah, Gooigi. And it's just like if he gets hit by water, he evaporates. And like Mario Sunshine would be too focused on that motherfucker to not see them fucking pops coming. And that dead eye that Luigi gives on Mario Kart.
Well, that leads in perfectly to my number 3, which is Super Smash Brothers Melee for the GameCube. And that's the reason Mansion and Sunshine didn't show up on this list, is because I've got 2 GameCube games on here.
Yeah.
So, but Melee though, holy crap, dude. I never got to own the original for the 64 until I got older. Like, I actually wound up owning it after I had Melee. But Mom would rent the original Smash Brothers for me for the 64 from Blockbuster almost once a month. And I would just play the fuck out of that game. One of my other friends had it. We would play the hell out of that game.
I had it. So I've talked about this many times, but one Christmas I got the GameCube, and it came with a shit ton of games.
Yep, same.
One of those games was Smash Brothers Melee. It was the last game I played in that stack because I didn't know what it was.
Yeah,
I just had a bunch of Nintendo characters on them, just like, okay, if it's probably like a party game.
Right.
At that point, I didn't know what it was.
Right.
So I put it in player 1, and I realized that you could get trophies for every character, and you could get gold trophies for every character. So I spent like a month and got all that shit. And I'm just like learning every character. Kirby was the last one I did because I couldn't play that character very well.
Yeah.
But no, I kept like the finger guy, boom, 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 the shadow version, you know. I played that game until I hit like that platinum level. Yeah. Where it's just like, okay. And then I started playing with some friends of mine who had Brawl later on. I'm just like, I suck at this game.
Yeah. But I wasn't good at Brawl.
But when I was single player, yeah, I'm the shit. Not even like at easy mode, just like at whatever normal mode it starts off as. And I'm just like, fuck yeah. I'm just bashing these motherfuckers to death. And like, it did have a weird health dynamic. You could be like 500% and not get knocked off that fucking platform.
As long as you can jump right back up, as long as you don't go out of bounds or fall to the bottom.
Did you have a favorite level, like a stage?
A couple. Honestly, I liked the really simplistic sparkly stage that just had the platform and then two floating platforms, and it was kind of in space. Kind of purple hinged. I liked that one a good bit.
Was that the Star Fox?
No, the Star Fox one was you were on a jet. Yeah, you were on a jet with that one.
That was fucking hard.
But with that one, also liked the F-Zero.
No, when you're on the racetrack.
Yes,
that was fucking rough.
The Metroid one where the monster kind of slashes at
Ridley,
you. Yeah,
the dragon. Yeah.
That was a fun one. And honestly, I didn't like the Hyrule one as much. Everyone loves doing that.
I hated the Hyrule one because there's a spot where you could just stand there.
Yes, and that's why people fucking like that one.
And they can just camp and wait for somebody.
Fuck that shit.
And then hop up and just beat the shit out of you.
No.
Yeah.
But I liked a lot of the stages on that one, and the single player replay was tremendous because again, you had so many different people with different stats and different games.
Like a go-to?
Look, I'm a basic bitch.
Mario.
Every fucking time. It doesn't matter if it's Mario Party, Mario Kart, Smash Brothers. I've always picked Mario.
Yeah.
I know I've seen so many fucking people online with like the list tiers of like, if you pick Mario, you're a basic bitch. I'm a fucking basic bitch. I don't care. It's a Mario game. I'm gonna play as Mario.
My go-to was always Sheik, which was the other version of Princess Zelda.
Yep.
Where she dressed like a ninja, basically.
Yep.
That was my go-to because she could jump higher than regular Zelda. But
you would have to pick regular Zelda, but if you press the blue Z button, you would transform, and then you can kick some ass.
The only problem is, like, if you jumped and pressed the Z button by accident, her fall is slowed by a lot. Kind of like Peach. Peach, when you play as Peach, she pops out an umbrella and slows back down. But, like, that would suck in, like, F-Zero when you're just falling and she's like, giving you the finger on the way down while you're getting hit by like 50 fucking race cars and shit.
I know. But yeah, that would definitely be my number 3 is Smash Brothers Melee.
Yeah. My second favorite is Link to the Past.
Okay. Link to the Past.
One of the greatest probably video games of all time to me. Like if I was making a list, this would probably be in my top 5 of greatest video games I've ever played. Period. It's so simplistic. It's got replay value out the ass. Hey, do you want to challenge yourself? Play it without this. You can beat the game without getting all the items. I've done it. It's not that hard. But if you want to beat the whole fucking game,
you got to get all the items.
And this was actually the first game to do a shout out to a fan that I know of. A guy named Chris Julian had passed away and was a big Zelda fan. And if you play the game a certain way, there is a Chris Julian room in the game. And if you go to the little button in the room, it's filled with rupees. It's shiny and blue, with all blue rupees, which is like the highest rupees.
Yep.
At that time, it said this is dedicated to Chris Julian, in the spirit of the game. Blah 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 blah. This is for him.
See, I remember reading about that.
And there are a couple of different ways to get to the room. You can always do it by accident, but you can't do it for the one on Nintendo Switch for some reason. I've tried it at Mikey's Friday because I was telling him about it.
Yeah.
And I kept trying. I'm just like, it won't go.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of curious if they took it out but I'm not sure. I'm not saying they did, but I'm just saying it was hard for me to get the glitch to work.
Right.
And it is a glitch, so that's the thing too. The developers put that in there without probably telling Nintendo, and then some guy found it and was like,
no,
and like took a Snapchat or took a snap a picture of it, took a snap of it, and sent it to Nintendo Power. Hey, I found this in the Zelda game. Holy shit!
What the fuck?
Oh no! Someone had to commit Harry Carey after that. But the game is very simple. The bosses were fantastic. I won a keychain from a GameStop for beating the first boss in so many minutes.
Oh wow!
And it was the shield on a keychain, and I won that from a GameStop. And I thought that because they had it set up on an emulator basically, and they had the little USB controllers out. And they were trying to sell these USB controllers, but they had a little emulator set up with the screen and everything. And yeah, and like this one guy, he beat the fucking like main boss, like Ganon, in like 4 minutes. It was ridiculously fast.
Oh wow! And
he didn't take any damage. That was fucking unreal.
You're like, I'm still fucking impressed by this kid.
Yeah, but like the first boss I fought, doom, 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 done. I'm done. And it wasn't like Mario where it's 3 hits. Mm-hmm. It's overtime, and I did that at Mikey's when we were playing the Super Mario game. You remember the second boss on Donut Island?
Oh yeah.
Where it's doom, doom, and you got it, and it's coming for you, and it goes up the wall. And down. I got him before he touched the wall.
Oh shit!
3 hits before he hit the wall.
Fuck
I ran at that motherfucker. Bop, waited. Bop, bop. Done. And then I stomped his fucking castle to the ground.
I thought you were gonna say then I stomped his controller.
Yeah. Oh god, it's just like stomp, yeah, motherfucker.
What the fuck, Chris?
What the fuck? But yeah, like Link to the Past, is so much replay value now. I'm glad they added it to the emulated SNES. Of fucking course they should. It's probably the greatest hits of other fucking generation next to Super Mario. But like those two, like those are the best of that whole console.
Yeah. And I would say everything you just said applies to my number 2, which is Mario 64.
Yeah.
I've talked about it countless times anytime we brought up a Nintendo or a gaming episode.
Did you ever do the glitches in that one?
Oh, God, yes. And I found them out by mistake. I wasn't reading the Nintendo powers. I didn't have internet. This was me just sitting in my room fucking off in this game, not even going through levels. It's like I would just jump in a world that I knew like wasn't going to be like specifically set up for like a certain star, and I would just free roam. I would just jump on different things, destroy everything, try to collect all the 100 regular gold coins, but through that just like trying to like climb every tree, jump at every wall. The possibilities of this game are endless. I remember kids talking about, L is real in school and shit like this. So it's like the game felt like it had all this untapped potential because it was so wide and vast already. I'm sure it could be deeper, it's like what could be lurking in here. So I just remember just that game, not only just for the gameplay, but the kind of the mysticism behind it and how much potential it could hold, just enriched the whole playing aspect of it. And it's like I remember the commercials for it, the Got Milk commercial, and like the imagery and the style. It's like Mario was everywhere at that time, and jumping into that world felt like jumping into the Mario world. So it was just the epitome of just what I wanted out of a game, period.
One of the funniest videos about video games was the guy sitting there trying to do the stairway glitch, and he couldn't quite do it, and his girlfriend grabs it. He's like, done.
Yep.
And it's just like that look at his face, like defeat.
Oh yeah. And it's like it would be like the different things of I would try to figure out how to jump up the stairwell, without getting as many stars. Or even the very first one, you collect, I think it's 8 stars, and then you can go in the first Bowser room. And the way the first Bowser room is set up is you go into the sliding doors, you walk up like a couple steps, and then you've got a long hallway, and you've already been trained that you jump through picture frames within the game. So at the very end of the hallway, you see a picture frame of Peach. So you start walking toward the frame, and as you're walking toward it, it slowly starts morphing into Bowser. And by the time Bowser fully gets into frame, the floor dips out from underneath you, and you fall into the Bowser stage. Well, as a kid, I would fall through the floor and look at how much of a gap there was on the floor, and I would go, okay, I could do a running jump, press Z, and like launch myself over this thing. I just have to time my jump right. Spending 30 minutes just to redoing that over and over to time my jump right, just to find out there's an invisible wall and I can't fucking get through the fucking wall. So it's I would spend just so much time doing little shit like that, and it's I could find ways to jump off high points of buildings and land in other weird spots. So I'm okay, if I could do this, I'm sure there's weird shit underneath levels. I would waste lives just jumping into a level, going around to an area I've not been in before, and kind of jumping off the side and moving the camera around to see if there's any hidden platforms. I was in this fucking game, dude. It has to be my number 2.
And it just reminds me of the Lego cubes we put together with all the levels.
Yes,
it is the N64 Mario that we were putting together. And I remember watching putting that together, and I'm just what, all right, let me look up what the fuck this level actually looks like to gotta see what if they got it right. And they kind of did.
Yeah,
especially the ice one with all the levels going up and shit, and the little cannons and stuff you set up. I don't know, did you ever finish yours?
I've gotten a little further.
Lame. You're not a Lego fan. Get the fuck out of my face.
Well, what's your number 1, Chris?
Breath of the Wild is my number 1 Nintendo game.
Well, at least both of us have very similar styles. Yours is very Zelda heavy, mine's very Mario heavy.
But it is perfect. To me, it is the perfect game. There are people that get bitch and moan and stuff like that. Of all things we like, but in the game, your weapons, can break. Okay, that added kind of a sense of realism for me. If I'm killing 50 guys with one spear, eventually that spear's going to fucking break. The timing's perfect. When it came out with the Switch, I got it much later, so I got it with the DLC and everything. The DLC was fucking perfect. It's worth the money to get the DLC. That's hard to say.
Yeah,
for a lot of stuff. It is worth the fucking money. And I love that game. I play it all the time. If I get tired of a new game I'm playing, if I'm playing Luigi's Mansion, I get tired. Where did I leave off on Breath of the Wild on the new playthrough?
Yeah, my 3rd playthrough.
Let me go and play it without a shield. Let me see how far I get without fucking playing like a defensive pussy. Let me just be all attack, stab, 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 stab. Oh, let me learn a new move that some guy showed. There are people that play this game who defeat enemies that take me 30 minutes to defeat and do it in less than 4 minutes, and it's almost infuriating. And I'm just no, it's not. This guy was technical, perfect, glitched, and worked everything out. And you can do it. That's the fucking thing. Is it's not some weird way of playing the controller, mid in your hands a certain way, like those fuckers that play Tetris.
Yeah.
It is.
They're holding the controller upside down and shit.
I've watched those fucking kids, and the kid just broke the fucking world record for Tetris for the NES, and everybody's did he cheat? No, he held the controller.
It was in his hands.
It was in his motherfucking hands. You didn't tell him he had to play it like a brick, but he played it like
a flute.
Yeah, he was just like a recorder, just kicking ass, pointing the controller at motherfuckers. But in Breath of the Wild, the story is fun. The enemies are tough, but not not impossible to beat. There are multiple ways to play the game, and I will say, the opener is fantastic because it opens up to what you're going to see. Do I have gripes with the game? I have gripes with every game, but this is the one that's my perfect favorite, and it justified me buying a Switch.
That's also hard to say.
So, I had a Switch Lite and got Breath of the Wild. It justified me enough to get the new Switch.
Wow.
Because the screen's bigger, and the Joy-Cons don't have as much
and
ping.
You can connect it to the TV.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But that justified it enough for me to buy a $300 system, not just because there's some more of the games I want to play, but because this is the game. For me, that is the flagship of the Switch.
Yeah.
You have Mario Party, you have Mario Kart, which is technically the flagship of the Switch. That is the top game for the Switch for every critic of the system. For me, it's Breath of the Wild, and Tears of the Kingdom is going to probably be the next one.
No, and the way you feel about that is definitely the way I feel about Mario 64.
And this will be the first time since the 64 Zelda will be released twice on a console for Nintendo.
You're right.
Yeah, so from 64 you had Majora's Mask and you had that one. I don't count Twilight Princess as a game for the GameCube. I count it for the Wii.
Yeah.
Because that's why it was made, for the Wii.
Yeah.
But you only have Wind Waker for the GameCube.
Yeah.
So, it's the first time that two games from this franchise are actually going to be put on the same console for the same fucking reason.
Yep.
So I'm excited to see that, and I think that the games are just going to get better because now the platform is there with it.
I mean, if they've been doing so well the last few years, they've got to.
I haven't played a Mario game since Mario Galaxy 1 for the Wii, and
I still haven't played Odyssey. I've watched a lot of playthroughs. It looks fun, but I've yet to play it.
Yeah.
And because of that, because I haven't played it, you kind of said it. My number one, oddly enough, is
Street Fighter 2 Turbo.
Yes, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe.
Yeah,
and
I was tempted to buy that when I was out buying because it was cheaper, and I was tempted to buy it just to be like, you know what, I got a game I can play with Alex.
Dude, I will say this: I've always enjoyed the Mario Kart franchise. I had Double Dash for the GameCube, had the Wii version. I never owned a Wii U, but that's the bullshit that I'm about to bring up here. The Mario Kart game for the Wii U was Mario Kart 8. The Switch game is Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. It's the same fucking game. So technically, my favorite game is a Wii U game, which is a little fucked up. But I say the Switch version, and right now, I would be content if they never released another Mario Kart.
Yeah.
If they ended with this series. And
there's nothing they could put onto a game. Like, there's no new things they could do to the game to justify making a Mario Kart 9.
I don't think so.
No.
And the reason being is the DLC they're creating right now.
With the different tracks.
Yes. So Mario Kart 8 Deluxe already came preloaded with a bunch of brand new tracks and then remasters and reskins and like additions to like the classic levels. So like you would get Moo Moo Farm from Mario
64.
from 64, but like it would be expanded upon. It'd be a little bit of a longer track, updated graphics, but you would still be reminded of Moo Moo Farm. Same thing with like Peach's Castle Raceway. That's in there.
Now, does it have like a Double Dash feature?
It doesn't yet.
Yes.
But I could see them adding that as a feature in the DLC.
Yeah.
And even with the DLC, they're starting to add a lot more courses. Like about maybe every 4 months, they add like 8 new courses.
So that's actually a good question. Do you think Nintendo would be better off just doing DLC packs for this game instead of making a Mario Kart 9?
I think so.
Because I'm just waiting for like Mario Kart X. Because
Yeah.
that would be the one. That would like if they were to ever go that far with the Mario Kart 10, it should come preloaded or a reasonable expectation of being rewarded with the original games.
Yeah.
That's what I think. Like, if you're going to make a game that's been franchised out for so long, kind of like when I was talking about Metroid Prime. Hey, if you beat the game, you get the old game. How
Yeah.
badass is that?
Well, I mean, they're slowly making that the availability. I mean, so the reason I'm getting the updated things is because I've got the expansion pack through Nintendo Online.
Yeah.
So on the Super Nintendo channel, you already get Super Mario Kart, which you can pass on. But on the 64 channel, they now have Mario Kart 64. So you can actually play those two games already for quote-unquote free. And then they're adding all these extra tracks to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. And man, it's like... the carts control well. There's enough character selection to where if you don't want to play as Mario every single time like I do, there's tons of other characters from your mainstays like Mario and Waluigi and Wario and Bowser and Peach, all the way down to fucking Koopa Troopers and Shy Guys and fucking Gold Rose Peach, or Rose Gold Peach, right? Yeah. So it's like, every little all the different Kooplings, Iggy and Lemmy and all them.
Double Dash being so popular because it was like a team game almost.
Exactly. They found a way to kind of change the formula some. And this is the reason why I say I would be happy if this was the last one. So, Super Nintendo one, meh. The 64 one came out. You've got a lot more buttons, so triggers are easier to manage. You've got the new joystick, so you've got a lot more precision with your turning. Okay, that's added quality of life upgrades to this game. Well, when the GameCube came out, what's the way to do it? Just a nicer version? No, let's make 2 characters. Now, if you want to play as, with your friend, you can either play split screen or one guy can drive and another guy can be in charge of your items. Awesome, fun game mechanic. The Wii version comes out. Well, here's your new mechanic. You can use the Wii mode as your steering wheel. And then the Wii U came out, and they didn't really do much other than you've got the gamepad, which can double as your map. They didn't do much on that. Now that they've put it on the Switch and it's a much more highly profitable system, a lot more people have been playing it. What else can they do with the next upgrade? They've now released 2 games where they didn't change the status quo. When all the other times before they did. I feel like they've plateaued. And because of that, they just need to keep releasing updates. Just keep doing that. We'll buy the little updates. Don't waste the money with all the new R&D and assets and all that stuff to make us spend $60 on a game that's essentially a DLC pack.
Right.
I'll buy the $20 DLC pack.
That kind of goes into my next question. You know, with the Xbox One S, you know, and the PlayStation 5, eventually we're going to be, in the next probably 3 years, we're going to come up into the next console. Do you think there's going to be another Nintendo console next? Based on what they've made, they've kind of hit the nail on the head with the greatest, you know, enjoyable console to make.
The only thing I could think of is...
It's a handheld and a console.
Okay, so they did the OLED.
OLED,
Yeah. Wait, so they did the OLED model. Honestly, I think their next move is a Switch Pro.
Yeah, but like it's
with like a better chip inside to like run games a little smoother, maybe finally support like actual like 4K stuff.
Yeah, but like, do you think it'll be a new console? Like, I have a Switch OLED, which is not much different from the Switch.
Right.
There is a Switch Lite, which is only handheld, or you can buy a third party, you know, docking station and a controller.
Yeah.
But, you know, the PlayStation has a new controller.
Right.
The Xbox has a more responsive controller and online capability.
Right.
So do you think that they would go away from that console on like the new Nintendo whatever the fuck?
No, and the reason I kind of feel that way...
Like in my opinion, I think they've plateaued. Nintendo cannot make another system that is totally different from what they have now.
I don't think they can, and I don't think they will, because let's look at least their marketing strategy and the way they've kind of presented themselves. They always had their hands in 2 different pots, their handheld market and their home console market. And if we watch the trajectory, both throughout time have been slowly creeping in on each other. You had the Super Game Boy player for the NES, Super Nintendo, and then for the Nintendo 64, you could play select games through the card reader pack you could put in the bottom of your controller. And then you had the full-out e-reader Game Boy Advance player on the GameCube. All of a sudden, after the Wii and Wii U, the 3DS, around that time is when the Game Boy died. Then you've got your DS. Now you've got a new form factor in your handhelds. They weren't continuing to release Game Boy and DS systems. The DS replaced the Game Boy as the handheld. Then you start seeing similarities in button placement, design, size between the Wii, Wii U, and now the 3DS. Now with the Switch, we essentially have 2 Wiimotes attached to what used to be a 3DS. They've now merged their whole systems together. I think they're just going to continually upgrade that single system and be like, it's going to turn into like an iPhone upgrade. Here's the new Nintendo Switch upgrade. This one has a better screen, a better processor, it now can support up to this, that, and the other. And check this out. Here's your new optional controller. Your Joy-Cons are still going to work, but check this out. This is going to work with the new processor, so you actually have new tilting capabilities. And look at the touchpad that's on this controller. I see them creating brand new peripherals, new little things that they can add to the system while your actual system stays the same.
So let's say they come out with a Nintendo OLED 2. Okay, 4K supported, all that. What is something you would want to see added to the system? Because there's only one thing I want added to the fucking system.
And I don't know. I feel like that kind of turns into the Apple thing. Nintendo's really good at creating something I didn't know I wanted.
Yeah.
Just like Apple.
So Switch, you have a spot for an SD card for extra memory. Fantastic. Xbox did that perfectly with a 360. You can buy a third-party hard drive, save everything to that. Fight them PC motherfuckers to death. The only thing I want to see, if they do make a Switch Pro, is a slot to put fucking DS games in.
I was thinking about that too. That would be really cool. And I'll take you one step higher. Create a new dock with a disc system in it.
No.
That way we can play our GameCube games.
No. So I think the internet will go so far enough that after the 64-pack collection, they will do a GameCube Select Edition. But that's where the third-party hard drive would have to come in. Maybe it's something that could add to your docking station, like let's say a terabyte hard drive that hooks into it with an Ethernet jack, which it does have an Ethernet jack to it.
Yes, it does.
So that's what I would like to see next.
And yeah, actually talking about that, I see them creating new docks. Mm-hmm. But I don't think they're going to create I don't think they're going to move away from the model of home and portable console. I feel like they're going to keep that form factor. I don't think they're going to pull a PlayStation or an Xbox move and be like, here's your strictly home console. They're going to stick with that form factor of both.
Yeah, but like that's what I want to see about, hey, you guys have been you've been loyal fans, blah, blah, blah. We know you love the 3DS. You still have those games probably. They're probably not supported anymore online. What if we, capitulate a little bit, do what PlayStation did, which made them backwards compatible, or do what Xbox did, which was create an entire fucking subscription service already attached to the gold service where you could play the old 360 games, or you could download them at least and hold on to them for a while.
Yeah.
What if they just created another slot or a way of bringing those games back to play on the Switch, like Pokemon Red and Blue or Pokemon Gold and Silver?
Well, see, that's what I'd like to see, and they don't have to do any upgrades on that. I just want a goddamn Game Boy channel.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like basically a Game Boy channel.
Yeah.
But another thing is they have been reworking some of the games, like Link's Awakening, which was strictly for the original OG Game Boy, got reworked into a game for the Switch, and it looks fun. It looks cartoony. It looks good. Mm-hmm. It looks like probably what it was meant to be.
Right.
And which is a top-down platformer. But I think the Switch has kind of plateaued though in form.
Yeah.
Not capability.
I agree.
Just form.
Yeah.
PlayStation 5 looks like it was made by aliens. Then you have the Xbox.
The fridge.
Which is hot. Like you could cook chicken on it.
I mean, it's even got the grates on top.
Yeah, it's got the grates on top. I could put like a little piece of metal on top and start making burgers. I joked with a buddy of mine, and he's got fans, like external fans hooked to it, so you could, process, keep it cold. And all I could think of is Brad and all his systems. I'm just like, get the fuck out of here, man. I could not. Like, I hear younger people talking about getting the newer consoles and stuff like, I'm never buying a PlayStation 5. What the fuck? It's too expensive. I'm not buying it.
And you can't find them anywhere.
But like even next year, maybe later this year, where they're going to be extremely available, I'm not going to do it because I got a handheld. I can just get off work, sit on the couch, and fall asleep.
Yeah.
And playing Breath of the Wild, the greatest game ever made.
And on that note, I think this has been a pretty solid episode of the Couch Bro-tatoes. If you've got some topic ideas for us or any news you think we ought to talk about, hit it up in that Discord. Again, the link is in the episode description. It's really easy to find. Come join us, join the conversation, share a meme or two, have a couple laughs, and stick around. We're going to be doing a lot more of this shit this year. And tune in next week. I mentioned it on the tail end of last week's episode, but I cropped it out because I read the times wrong. But tune in next week where we're going to be reviewing at least the first few episodes, depending on how many we get through, of That 90s Show, because that's going to be coming out this Thursday on Netflix. And
dumbass.
Yeah, I mean, I know that I'm immediately going to be binging that show as soon as it comes out. So I'm sure
that'll be a full season, right?
Yes.
They've said it's going to be a full season.
Okay. Yes, it's going to be like a full run of episodes. So, we're going to go ahead and run that down next week. And after we talk about a couple little news segments. But until then, Chris, do you have any sort of final thoughts for us?
I did bring it up, but HBO has actually started removing content from their streaming service. And I think it's because of stuff like Velma. I didn't bring it up, but this is the first time that's ever happened.
Yeah.
HBO made a series that they own and have removed it from the platform. Imagine Netflix removing Stranger Things after Stranger Things 5 came out.
Yeah.
Can you imagine how fucking terrifying that's going to be? Because it got sold. They sold their own IP.
Yep.
It's ridiculous. And if you, I swear to God, if another fucking streaming service gets that show that I have to buy, I'm going to lose my goddamn shit.
Tune in next week as we talk about what the fuck show that was.